course, we are on the tail end of a program right now, intensely looking at this upcoming book that will be launched next week, a memoir, A Moving Horizon by Ambassador Dr. Francis Muthaura. And we are still teasing out some of the issues that have been raised here, hacking back into history where we are at, and looking at how also the intrigues and the back doors of government, how they work, sometimes that is not really playing in the gallery or in the public gallery. And he is here with us. And Ambassador, I just wanted to just pick out something, even as we're talking. It seems still the seeds of divisions were deeply there. We can see them right now, as just we've heard from Churchill Suba. But looking also at, you know, one of the documented evidence that we have here on page 259 of your book, we have right now people talking about a referendum. We have the National Dialogue Committee that had given an extension to actually talk on a raft of issues, or submissions from the public. And right now they're trying to, of course, make sure they streamline all these things. But one of the overarching thing that we can see, is the talks about referendum, and it takes back to where we are in 2005. And here you say, I just want to read it so that to you, so that we can actually just look at it and say, is the referendum the way to go since 2005? And it says here that since the banana campaign was led by 21 ministers plus president and his vice president, and the orange side was led by only 6 ministers under the leadership of Honorable Raila Odinga, the banana campaign was optimistic that it will win because its leaders' influence had a wider population cover than the 6. The orange side had teamed up with the opposition counter to oppose the draft constitution in the referendum. When the referendum was held on the 21st of November 2005, the government side lost to the referendum by garnering 42% against 58%. After the vote, I had stayed awake throughout the night watching the results come in. The results were disturbing, as the banana side appeared to be losing. The ECK returns were progressively favoring the orange side. What was even greater concern was the political division in the country. It was ironical that while the economy was doing very well, the political divisions in the country was getting wider. Indeed, the outcome split the country into two. An overwhelming majority of those from the west of Rift Valley and over 2/3 of the Rift Valley province voted orange, while those east of Rift Valley, excluding sections of the coast, northeastern provinces, and section of eastern province, voted banana. The fact that the country was divided into two political blocs across the middle created serious concerns for national unity. I was very saddened about the results, which will be followed by a huge political backlash. By 6 a.m. the following day, it was obvious that the banana side had lost in the referendum by a significant margin. The orange side was already calling for the resignation of the government. I called the president at about 7 a.m. to ask him whether he was coming back from Othaya earlier than planned, and he needed to make I called the president at 7 a.m. to ask him whether he was coming back from Othaya earlier than planned, and he needed to make an early statement accepting the outcome of the referendum to stall speculation and anxiety when the country was highly politically charged. I was very tensed when I called him, as the outcome of the referendum was unexpected and the consequences were not clear. I expected the president to be depressed by the outcome. To my surprise, he was very calm and quickly responded that Kenyans had rejected the draft constitution, and that was the end of the matter. He told me that he was coming back to Nairobi before 10 a.m. and that I should prepare an appropriate draft statement accepting the outcome and assuring the country that the government will commence broad consultations soon after to reconcile the difference that had emerged during the Constitution Review Conference at Bomas of Kenya and referendum debates. I'm reading that because from 2005, and you sitting back at home and watching all these dialogues continuing, what are we toying through? I mean, what are we toying with? Are we going through the same experience? Will they also bring the same emotions that we had in 2005 from your own experience?
Well, I think the manner in which we conduct our politics is a bit we build a lot of tension without accepting that democracy is about numbers. At the end of it, we have to vote. Whoever wins, even by one vote,
is a winner.
Is the winner. But for us, one of the problems is that if there is a narrow margin, we reject the results. We tend to reject or not to easily accept, because we think there is quite a bit of undercurrents that manipulate results. So it's very important that really, as a country, we build confidence in our voting system so that it's transparent and the results are always accepted. The other issue is that here we have different parties, but really their ideologies are the same. It's the ideology of one party or the other is they are very close. I mean, we all aspire to development, to wider distribution of our development, and also for peace and security, and also enhancement of our regional and group competitiveness. These are things we all embrace, both of our parties. So whether one party wins or the other wins, for the people is not really a big shock. The other thing is that is to know, and if you look at the constitution, the new constitution, emphasizes the professionalism and security of the people in the public service, so that they can manage or design or execute government policies objectively. So that there's a lot of emphasis on that in this constitution. The other one is appointments in the public service. There is the issue of merit.
Yes.
The other issue is gender consideration. I mean distribution, and the third one is national distribution or county distribution. You cannot have top leaders or top professionals just from one county. Should it be spread out? But they all must pass the merit criteria. That is a way of building confidence in our election system, in the change of government, so that whoever wins becomes our president. And mind you, we are giving him a chance only through for 5 years before we assess him again. If he performs, out. If he performs well, he is retained. So this, and that's what democracy is all about. Yeah. It's not like a matter of life and death. But our politics sometimes has over time taken that type of angle. Either we are in, and when we are out, is we are condemned. Another issue with the new constitution, the devolution. Devolution was actually supposed to stabilize the country in terms of distribution of political leadership. So we have governors and MCAs throughout the country, so that the politics of the country is shared broadly. The other thing is to distribute government revenue. You know, the revenue, you know, not all counties are given a very narrow area from which they can raise their money. Because we were afraid that if we allow counties to introduce any types of tax, the country will be, the economy will be totally handicapped by multiplicity of taxes. So the counties were given a very narrow area for taxation. That is rental, land rates, things like licensing of commercial premises, What else? Very small area. Otherwise, the back of the revenue comes from the national kit. And the national kit is supposed to be shared on the basis of the size and the population of the county. So all these things were meant to stabilize and to bring fairness and the general development in the country. The other point which some of my colleagues here talked about, sometimes about what Mwai Kibaki did to bring about national unity and cohesion. Remember, Mwai Kibaki was an economist, and that's why he created even Economic and Social Council to analyze the economy of the country and the social sectors to see exactly where the focus should be. So the focus which was identified was, first of all, development of human capacity, resources, education, which, remember, apart from free primary, introduced free day secondary to make sure the whole population is educated. The other thing was he took over when universities were only 6. But by the time we left, public universities were more than 22, spread throughout the country. This was actually to broaden capacity and development throughout the country. The other one was infrastructure. You remember power distribution or rural electrification. Until Kibaki came in, it was just a talk. But after Kibaki came in, there was power throughout the country. There was power throughout the country. Even very remote areas. Marketplaces, public hospitals, all institutions, and power. And the people are supposed to tap power from nearby. The other thing that which he did, road infrastructure. Northeastern really, from Isiolo to Moyale, one used to spend about 3 days traveling on Maram Road, which was in a very bad shape. Ingo that road tarmac to open up Northeastern. He got the road from Garissa to Wajir and to Wajir, Mandera. I don't know whether we can completed to Mandera at that time. The other thing, the Lapset, you remember the Lapset project, was actually to open up
the corridors,
northern Kenya. Because northern Kenya covers almost half of the country, but the utilization of the area is very scanty and the potential is enormous. Population in Kenya is concentrated in the southern part of the country. So we want them to open up. That's why we even came up with the Lamport and the corridor. So, those type of structures, apart from when we talk about ethnic issues or national cohesion, the national infrastructure must reach all corners of the country.
Thank you. All right, let's just stop from there a bit so that I can drop in Barak and get our last sentiments. Maybe you have a question that you'll want to fire to Our Excellency this morning. We will be remiss also if we don't talk about, the trying moment of the ICC. This has been also documented, I know, for you and your family. But Barak, let me just hear from you briefly.
Well, I would want to see what His Excellency has said about the ICC. It was certainly an extremely low moment for the country. And my own attitude has been to look at it more broadly in the context of what it meant for us, rather than for the individuals who appeared before that court. Certainly they took the beating at a very personal level. It their families. And sometimes we also witnessed a certain glee in certain segments of the population, certain individuals, particularly in the political arena. But I think there's a sense in which it was an invitation to all of us to ask ourselves how we got to a point where we could not address our own issues here and bring them to an amicable settlement. And one will recall that President Kibaki and Prime Minister Raila Odinga spent a whole night in Parliament to attempt to put in place a home-based process that would have us interrogate whatever happened within the ICC, or went on to happen before the ICC. And we lost that opportunity. It has gone down as a chapter in our history, and quite disappointing beyond the individuals who appeared there, that it did not solve anything. It never brought us to the heart of the matter to know what exactly happened. And I think that there was a sense in which some people, somebody had to appear before the ICC without really getting to the bottom of the matters. And I don't say that because Ambassador, you here have said that elsewhere. That perhaps we just wanted to pick up some people and say these are the ones who bear the largest responsibility, without really getting down to the heart of the matter. But away from that, because there was a build-up to that tragic moment, we take lessons from these political marriages of convenience. Churchill Suba says, and I agree with him entirely, in fact, that the year 2002 was an opportunity to turn around the country. And President Kibaki, in spite of being in this post, because that has sometimes been positioned, and we have been told that he was unwell. If he was unwell and is in this position, disabled him from doing things, the meritorious projects and programs that His Excellency talks about as having happened under President Kibaki would not have happened. Within just the first few months, Your Excellency, there were already rumblings and grumblings within the government. The divisions within government started by February 2003. That agreements which had been reached in the Rainbow Coalition were betrayed by His Excellency the President, the political agreements. On a more significant national platform, the promise that we would have a new constitution by the 30th of June 2004 did not happen. Instead, when June 2004 arrived, we saw a president who started cannibalizing the opposition, bringing the opposition into government, where we saw Simeon Nyachai getting into government with the Ford people and a number of
Kalonzo
elected. No, Kalonzo would stay on for a while because Kalonzo was part of the Orange Democratic
He came in 2007
movement, and he would cross over in 2007. Perhaps there were compelling factors, but these factors are symptomatic of failure elsewhere. But for me, that particular presidency, the greatest achievement is probably going to be the Constitution of Kenya 2010, that having learned his lesson in 2005, because there were factors, compelling factors. Ambassador Muthaura says that it was a sad moment, the banana lost. It was actually a glorious moment for the country that the banana lost, because the work which Yashpal Gai and his commission had done was completely watered down. It was adulterated. When the draft constitution was being handed over to Attorney General Amos Wako at the Bomas of Kenya, there were people who walked away in protest, who said, we don't want this constitution. A cabinet minister said, in fact, we never really wanted a constitution. We never really wanted a new constitution, a constitutional review. Mm-hmm. We wanted to remove Moi from power. And now that we have power, we have stopped this thing of juggling the lever that we were doing at that time. And they went on to give the draft to Simeon Nyachai, who went with it to Kilifi. And when it came back, it was not recognizable as what Yashpal Gai and others
it was dismembered,
had worked on for a period of time.
Right.
And finally, because I see your blue pen is pointing at me,
yes.
Finally, Your Excellency, I beg to differ that President Kibaki took it well. He didn't. Because when he came back from Othaya, and I was coming back from Emanyuria, the same day, the evening before I got to Nairobi, I was hearing on my car radio that the president had done a cabinet reshuffle. He had made changes in government, and the statement that he issued was laced with very uncharacteristic kind of bitterness, blaming those who had led the campaign against the draft, and Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Najib Balala, I believe the other one was William Mutimama, John Nyaga, and one other person whom I forget, were sacked. And we had people now like Musikari Kombo, Soita Shtanda, and others being now brought into cabinet. But to his credit, I think Kibaki was the gentleman of Kenya's politics. He understood when to attempt to bring the nation together, and he left us a new constitution.
Thank you.
The last sentence in that paragraph.
I want to give him a chance also to respond so that we don't cut him
yes,
off.
because he must respond to this, and I'd really like him
briefly. So, because my director is on
this last sentence particularly is the most important thing that I would want His Excellency the Ambassador to respond to. Did we budget? Did we budget the Constitution that we gave ourselves in the year 2010? Because His Excellency was at the apex of the public service.
Thank you.
And I think that the problems that we are having today are emerging from a constitution that has given us a very expensive government. The thing that we call the cost of living is the cost
of running the government. Okay. Ambassador, very briefly, because also the wine is here, because I know there's a lot of issues. Very briefly.
Thank you very much. I think I'm not really departing very much from what he's saying, because there were real challenges, and for me as the head of public service, I'm happy when the government succeeds. Because that is my mission.
Yes.
To execute the government policy to succeed. So when the government fails, I feel disappointed. So you must understand about my disappointment.
Indeed.
It was possible, yeah.
But the issue is, all these processes started as a mistake which was made when the cabinet was formed. The first Kibaki cabinet, and I pointed it in my book. There was a mistake where one of the major parties, after the appointment of the cabinet, was not happy. And there was no effort to try to rectify, to correct that unhappiness. Because Raila Odinga felt the new cabinet did not imbalance the interests of the major party. He was very key in the win, in the coalition win. So he was not very happy, and that is why when it came to the constitution negotiations, the cabinet was divided. Cabinet was divided, so that instead of, when we're in the coalition, you have a lot of room to reconcile the differences inside, even before the public know the trade-offs and what you get. But here, that split the cabinet, so that one section of the cabinet was not happy. So they went to negotiate, to finalize the constitution at the Bomas when they were actually divided. And that's really what caused problems. And that led to the defeat of the draft in the 2005 referendum. Now, after the failure of the referendum, there is political crisis. How do you handle it? You read my book, I'll explain how we try to handle that crisis.
And I think that is where you should leave it at. So that they'll read the book. So that we read. Yeah, so that otherwise we'll have told us everything. That's a good place where they will need to buy the book now and read it. Okay. Thank you very much. I just want to give closing remarks to Jonah Kindiki. Professor, just give your closing remarks as well.
Yeah, I think we need to...
Just briefly, yes.
Yeah, very briefly, to embrace the idea of trust, that we need to trust our institutions like IBC, like public service, and the devolution, all those that are enshrined in the Constitution, because without trust and giving them independence, the judiciary and all other institutions that we have, then we may not be able to implement our Constitution to the latter. And if there are challenges in the Constitution, there are ways of bringing it up for discussion for other forums.
Thank you.
There is nothing without mistakes, but our Constitution gave Kenya the second independence.
Thank you. Churchill Suba, your closing remarks briefly.
My closing remark is that this publication is my view, a depository of wisdom and experiences that have been earned over the years. We need to read it, but also use the lessons therein to inform our current governance system, so that we do not, repeat the same mistakes that His Excellency the Ambassador may have pointed out, and which he has had occasion to highlight.
Right. Yeah. Right. Barak Muluka, your closing remarks.
Yes, once again, my focus is on His Excellency the Ambassador, an elder, statesman in his own right, and a person who has really stayed the course. This country needs to listen more to such voices. I thank you for inviting him, and it would be good for us to have more elders like him on shows such as this one. And I think my only regret about Ambassador Muthaura is that he has retired. People like him are occupying leadership and giving their countries direction. Thank you.
Right. And we hope as well, moving forward, and since Barack, also you are in government, that is an idea that we should move, that these good minds, they should not go to retire. They should be in a council or advisory council that, yes, we tap their rich wealth of knowledge so that at least we can move the country forward. Ambassador, thank you so much. We look forward to, of course, to being in the launch. And I know some of them here, they've asked for the tickets indirectly. So after this, I know they will be there as well.
Are just out here.
But we want to thank you so much for putting all this wealth of knowledge that you've had, documented it in this book, a rich seam of information, as I've mentioned here. Here is a book, and 456 pages. This is quite a tome that is carrying a lot of documents just on the intrigues of how this country has been run since Jomo Kenyatta down through the stream of time until where we are at right now. And that will be happening the 2nd of November at, of course, here in Nairobi at Serena Hotel, right? Right, so that is where the launch will be. And this is courtesy of Kenway Publications and also Ambassador Francis Muthaura Foundation. Thank you very much for your valued company, and don't go away. News Diary is up next.